Hello and welcome back to the channel. This week we're working around Calypso. We're at the boatyard and I wanted to update you a little bit. We apologize. We have been away from making videos for the past couple of weeks. My day job got kind of busy. I'm a healthcare consultant in my off hours, and so I didn't get a chance to put out videos in a couple of weeks, but we're going to make up for it. So I wanted to update you on a couple of projects that we're planning for the spring, or at least considering. So as you can see, here's Calypso, and she is typical in your classic Searay white with her black and gold waterline stripe. So one of the things we are thinking about doing this year is thinking about painting the boat. I think I mentioned it in a few previous videos. That we're thinking of painting the boat. And what we're thinking about doing, and here is the Awlgrip paint chart, for those of you can see here, is we're thinking, and by the way, we're thinking of possibly something in this line. You can see where my thumb is, those colors along there, starting with Empress Blue along there. And for those of you who know, Awlgrip is a sprayed on paint. It's multi-processed. The boat is first faired and sanded, then it is primed, and then 2 or 3 coats of Awlgrip are put on, and then clear coat is put on. And when it dries, it takes about 3 weeks to cure. I mean, you can put it back in the water, but after it's fully cured, it's fairly hard. Now, it's not as tough as gel coat, which is, of course, the finish that most boats have from the factory, but it is pretty tough, but it gives you that amazing gloss finish. So we're thinking of painting the hull, basically. You can see myself from the rub rail down to the water line, across the transom here. All of this will, above this rub rail, it will stay white, and will stop right here at this mark right here, and then again below that rub rail it would be blue. And of course the top sides would remain white. We'll clean up some of the striping that's gotten a little old. So yeah, it's something we're thinking of doing, since we think we're going to hang on to Calypso. We think she's the boat that we'll keep for the future, and so we might as well do a good job. Now, a couple of considerations with Awlgrip that you have to have. One, as I said, it's paint, and so it can be damaged, but it's pretty tough. And 2, you have to keep in mind that in the winter, if you shrink wrap a boat, you can't put shrink wrap over it. You have to, in our case, the shrink wrap has to stop at the rail because it will blister. And also, if the shrink wrap flaps, if the plastic flaps in the wind, it'll scratch the boat. So you have to treat the hull a little bit differently if you're going to paint it. And the other thing, of course, is the fenders that you use. We have typical tailor-made fenders, and those fenders are, it's a polymer, it's a rubber. You have to get the soft terry covers for them so that you don't get fender rash. So there's a couple of things you have to do. And then in terms of maintenance, what you want to do is you need to wash the boat. Or I should say hose it down. You don't need to wash it, scrub it, or anything like that. In fact, you don't want to scrub it. You just need to keep the salt off of it. So after you use it, you need to clean it up. So a couple of things you have to do, but it will make for a nice finish. So we're still trying to decide if we're going to do that. We've got a couple of requests for quotes, and just for reference, we're getting numbers between $300 and $350 a foot. So you can do the math for your boat. For a smaller boat, it might be a little bit cheaper. And of course, it depends on the condition of the hull. Calypso is in excellent shape, so she won't take a lot of fairing to clean it up and get it ready to paint. So it should be probably closer to the $300 mark, we hope. The other project we are thinking of doing is putting in a bow thruster. Now, I know I've been the first one to say that I think a boat with twin engines doesn't need a bow thruster, and in most cases, you probably don't. However, there have been a few instances in the past 2 seasons with this boat And just to remind you, this boat, well, you can't see it that well. When her canvas is up, which it's not, there's a fair amount of windage to this boat, and so the wind will push the boat around. And so what a bow thruster would do, it would, in conjunction with the twin engines, it would allow me to move the boat sideways. So in other words, so if I were, let's say 4 feet off of a dock and I want to move the boat against the dock, I could, if the dock was to starboard, I could shift the starboard engine into forward and the port engine into reverse, which would start moving the stern towards the dock. And then with the thruster, I could move the bow, so effectively move the whole boat sideways and up against the dock. And so the thruster would be somewhere right about in here, fairly low. Oh, it'd probably be about an 8-inch tunnel, I think 8.5-inch tunnel at the ones I'm looking at. And one of the things that's also, hasn't convinced me, but I'm thinking about, one of the things that has piqued my interest is sort of the major brands of bow thruster, which is Vetus and then Side Power, which has a different name. I think we spoke about it in our previous video from the Newport Boat Show. It's Sleipner now, who makes Side Power, is you can get proportional control. So instead of just having on and off, which is typically what you see and hear, so you turn it on, you hear it thrusts at full power, and you often hear that cavitation. With proportional power, you can run it as low as 5% power all the way up to full power. So A, it doesn't cavitate because you don't draw in air when you turn it on, and you can run it at a much lower thrust, allowing you to run it much longer. And in fact, both of those brands offer basically a hold mode, so that if you want to hold the bow against the dock, you turn it on and push hold, and it's running at about 10% power, which is fairly low. So it can hold that for several minutes, where typically, a thruster at full power probably has most of runtime would be 3 minutes before it times out, it overheats, or draws too much power. But at 10% power, you can do that for 10 minutes, certainly long enough to tie up and secure lines if you're short-handed. So we're going to take a look at that. In terms of cost, so for a boat like this, the Vetus thruster that fits this, the thruster itself is about $4,500. That's the retail price I'm seeing online. And that Vetus model comes fully proportional. Now, on top of that, you'd have to buy the tunnel, the wiring, the helm switch. So you're probably at $6,500 for the thruster itself, with all the necessary accessories. Then you have fiberglass work to put the tunnel in, and then the actual install. So for a $4,500 thruster, you're talking probably about $10,000 to install it. That ballpark. Could be more, I don't know, I'm waiting to get back. On the Side Power or Sleipner unit, it's also available as proportional, but interestingly enough, the unit itself and the proportional control are separate. So the unit itself is about $3,200 for this size, but then you have to pay almost another $3,000 for that proportional control. So the two together are closer to $6,000 versus the $4,500 for the Vetus, because the Vetus is all built in. So a couple of things to think about. So we will see, as I say, we've got a couple of quotes out, and what we're thinking is, if we do it, we would do it all at the same time as we have the boat painted, and hopefully you take advantage of the boat being pulled, being available and easy to access. And then we do it next spring, early summer. We're actually planning a trip to go away with the family mid-June, so we do it while we were away. So a couple of projects there, and quite frankly, for those of you who are thinking of projects, now is the time to think about your projects. If you're going to do it over the winter, it's probably a little bit late to line up your boatyard, but for the spring, you probably want to consider it and start talking to your boatyard to see what their availability is and what the product availability. Of course, we have supply chain issues, so there is product availability for materials that's being shipped in from overseas. It's definitely time to be considering those things. Additionally, what else we're going to do? We are going to replace our anchor. right there. We have the traditional anchor. It's a plow anchor that comes on these boats, but I am going to replace it with a Mantis anchor. As you know, we do sell Mantis anchors over at cruisingcalypso.com, and so we're going to replace it with a Mantis anchor, which just hopefully will give us a better dig-in power. This anchor holds well once it digs in, but it doesn't always dig in some conditions, so we're going to replace it with a similar size Mantis anchor. And if you're familiar with those anchors, at least the M1, it has a roll bar, so it helps position the anchor so when it pulls in and digs in nicely. Let's see. As I said, we are going to get the fender covers for our fenders, just so it will protect the hull. And well, I probably spent way more money, much more money than I have at this point, so we'll probably stop there. But we are going to do some things. Oh, we are also in the we are having the cockpit settee recovered because it's cracking, and so we're going to have that recovered. And we're thinking about having the bridge cushions also done at the same time in the same material and pattern, just to be consistent. So bunch of stuff on Calypso. You know, I may end up spreading it out over 2 years because it will add up, but we are thinking of doing it. So anyway, that's where we are right now, and hopefully you have some fun projects in mind, some things you might do yourself, some things you might have your yard do. So look forward to hearing about it. So if you want, put in the comments below, tell me about what some of the projects you're thinking of doing. And as always, subscribe and hit the thumbs up and hit the bell so you don't miss any new content. I know we've been late, so I apologize to my subscribers and my viewers. But we will start getting out more videos. We have a video coming out on boats between 150 and 250,000. We've picked 4 nice ones that we're going to get. That video should be coming out in a week or so, and then we'll have more to go. So in any case, hope you enjoyed this video. Beautiful day here. It's mid-November, so enjoy, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.